And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
Thank you very much, and welcome again to all of you.
Bob.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, but Sergeant Ben Royster's here.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Ben Royster, and this is your Army Amateur Hour. Today, coming to you from Fort Armbruster, Ohio, the home of the Fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Battalion. Here on stage with me is our first contestant from Fort Armbruster, and he's going to compete for the coveted Drill Talent Award. He's Corporal Edgar Balch. Welcome to the show, Corporal.
Thank you, Sergeant. And I'd just like to send a verbal greeting to all my buddies out there in the 46th Hay Baling Unit of the Fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Brigade.
Okay. You've obviously got a lot of friends pulling for you today, Corporal. I notice you're now letting a lot of white mice out of the cages on top of the piano. Does that tie in somehow with the talent you're planning to display for us?
Yes, it does, Sergeant. I have 88 trained mice here. And, of course, that figures out one for each piano key. Right. So as soon as they all get in position, I'll demonstrate how I train them to jump up and down in place, thereby creating a piano melody.
Boy, this is going to be different.
Okay, you guys, let's fall in line. Count off there.
I see the mice are scampering around to find their places on the keyboard now. And while they're doing that, Corporal, suppose you tell us how they've been trained to jump up and down. Do they do it by voice command, or do you give the mice an electrical shock?
No, it's strictly... It's voice command,
it
Sergeant. I'd never mistreat the little fellows, even though it's harder to train them using humane methods.
Well, that's admirable, sir.
Well, excuse me, Sergeant. I think they're all in place now. I'd better get started while I still have their undivided attention.
All right. By all means, go ahead. The stage is yours, Corporal Edgar Balch.
Okay, now, let's look alert, fellas. 1, 2, 3, and go. 6, 9, 12, 43. Pick up those feet, number 5. That's good. Remember your number, guys. That's good. You're a little slow there, 62. Jump higher, 14. Higher. That's my boy. That's good. There you got it, fellas. Keep it up. That's it. Great.
Oh, that's great.
Terrific.
Just wonderful. And a beautiful tune, Corporal. Really great job of animal training. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the district finals of our Drill Talent Award competition to be held in the Yale Bowl next February. And now our next contestant here on the Army Amateur Hour is Major Bertram Pudgman. I suppose your friends call you Bert.
No, they call me Major Pudgman. Of course, I don't have any really close friends.
I guess we don't have to go into your personal problems about making friends. Why don't you tell us about the talent you've chosen to display here today?
Well, I do impersonations of famous military commanders in history.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a number of them, became my heroes while I was up there at West Point.
Right.
And I've worked up a little act built around my impressions.
All right, well, that sounds like good, clean entertainment. So, stage is all yours, Major Bertram Pudgman.
Well, first, here's my impression of a great favorite of mine, and I'm sure of yours, too, General Mark Clark. To the rear, hot. To the right flank, hot. Put, hot. And that's all of him.
How about a nice round of applause for the Major's impression of General Mark Clark? Well, I guess the men aren't going to applaud. You might as well go ahead, Major, with your next...
All right. Well, here's everybody's favorite from World War I, General Blackjack Pershing. Hold it! Get hot! At ease, men! That's all I do on Pershing.
I don't think this is going over too well, Major.
All right, it'll be okay. I'll get to my big finish here. All right. The hero of the Mexican War, General Winfield Scott.
Oh.
Hop, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Thank you.
I think you better duck out the back way before they tear you to pieces, Major.
I don't know what went wrong. My orderly loved it.
Yeah, well, there he goes.
Right.
Our final contestant, Major Bertram Punchman, and this is Sergeant Ben Royster saying so long until next time when we'll be coming your way from the Exeter, New Hampshire Marine Base, home of the battling 14th. See you then. And this is Biff Burns coming your way from the sports room for another look at the highlights and sidelights in the world of sports with our special guest, Barney Westerfield. Barney, I hear that our brand new professional team is about to burst forth on the local sports horizon under your tutelage.
Well, I hope it'll soon be bursting forth under my tutelage, Biff. You see, I'm now in the process of organizing the Inter-American Hide-and-Go-Seek League. And actually, we want to have a franchise here in New York.
Well, putting a team in the big town would really be a credit to your promotional skill, Barney, and I assume you're convinced that Hide-and-Go-Seek has enough spectator appeal to make the old cash register jingle in the box office.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt that it will jingle, Biff. You see, we're not talking about clumsy amateurs playing conventional hide-and-go-seek. The fans will have a chance to watch all the big-name pros in action. Hornbeck, Shanahan, Kazekian, even the immortal Croucher Mingus.
No.
Yeah, we signed him to a 6-figure contract today.
Landing the Croucher is certainly a credit to your promotional skill. I assume you have a number of local people who want to operate the valuable New York franchise under your expert tutelage.
Well, of course, I'm offering my tutelage to all the teams around the league until they get on their feet, Biff. Not many local promoters are experienced in professional hide-and-go-seek. And when you're asking $2 million for a franchise, you got to offer the fellas something.
Well, it's truly a credit to your promotional skill to be able to sell franchises for $2 million apiece in these troubled times. How many teams have you lined up for the league so far?
Well, we've got 7 teams ready to go next season, but I've had to make a few concessions on that franchise fee to move into the cities that we want. As I recall, I got $50 cash for the franchise in Lincoln, Nebraska, and about $12 worth of groceries for the one up in Racine, Wisconsin. The others, they still owe me.
Well, lining up 7 teams for the Loop's inaugural campaign is really a credit to your promotional skill, Barney. And, of course, adding New York would give you 8 cities. But have you got a place for the local team to play?
No, but I'm dickering seriously for Shea Stadium. Of course, we'd have to schedule our games out there on weekday mornings when nobody else is using the place. But, our biggest concern is that a baseball field is in a very good spot to play hide-and-go-seek.
Well, as a top sportscaster, I'm naturally familiar with the layout of Shea Stadium. I think it might be an ideal spot for your games with all those tunnels and closets and dressing rooms under the stands like
Biff, yeah, that would be true if the guys were just playing hide-and-go-seek for fun. But when you've got 40,000 cash customers in the park, you can't very well have all the action taking place in the tunnels under the stands.
Yeah, well, that's true.
See, the players are supposed to hunt for each other, but we don't want the spectators to have to hunt for them, too.
Well, it's a real tribute to your promotional skill that you've already thought of that problem, Barney, but what do you think can be done about it?
Well, my idea is to plant a lot of big trees all over the field at Shea Stadium. And then we could also add some old sheds and other things like that make good hiding places, you know. But the management of the Mets is a little worried about how they get all that stuff out, every night to play baseball. And that's why our negotiations are bogged down for the moment.
Well, if anybody's promotional skill can work out a solution, I'm sure it'll be yours, Barney.
Well, thanks for the vote of confidence, Biff. But I don't think I'm going to be able to work this one out. So we may have to play the first season at Central Park. Of course, we can't charge admission there, so that'll make the franchise worthless. Also mean we can't afford professional players.
Well, in that case, I can suddenly envision a bunch of 7- and 8-year-olds playing hide-and-go-seek in Central Park under your tutelage. And it's going to take a lot of promotional skill to draw a crowd for that.
Well, now that I hear you describe it, the thing really sounds like a sports promoter's nightmare.
I'm sure it will be a complete disaster, Barney, but thanks dropping by the sports room tonight. Till next time, this is Biff Burns saying, so long, Sam.
Well, now, here's a shopping tip from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Ladies, it's never too early to plan for your Easter celebration. So, isn't it about time now that you started shopping for some brightly colored spring flypaper to go on your Easter bonnet? As I'm sure you're aware, flies have difficulty telling the artificial fruit and flowers on ladies' hats from the real thing. And you certainly don't want to be embarrassed by having insects swarm around your head as you attend services at the church of your choice on Easter Sunday. So better act now while ample supplies of yellow, orange, and pink flypaper remain for the coming spring season. But remember, the latest fashion shades are available only in genuine Einbinder flypaper, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
And it's time now for another visit to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action begins, unlikable young Rodney Murchfield is still carrying out his arrangement to be held captive by Lefty Schellenbach, the town's leading kidnapper. Suddenly, Lefty spins around in the swivel chair he bought at a swap meet near the state capitol and speaks.
I guess it's time I sent a ransom note to your mother telling her where to leave the money, Rodney. Would you hand me the scissors so I can clip the message out of these newspaper headlines?
I'd be delighted to help, Lefty, but I can't reach the scissors. You have my arms tied to this chair with clothesline rope.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting that we've tried to make this look like a real kidnapping and not just a fake one that you dreamed up to chisel your old lady out of $9,800,000.
Well, I prefer not to think of it as low and conniving, Lefty. Besides, she seems to be falling for the trick anyway.
I hope so. But you know what, Rodney? It's really hard to make up an attractive kidnap note, the kind of headline type they use in newspapers these days.
I wasn't aware there'd been a change.
Oh, yeah, I remember back in '56 when I put the snatch on the Mumford twins. You could still find a lot of 24-point Bodoni type in the papers then. I pasted up a real attractive threat for the Mumfords, telling how I'd mail their kids home in a jar if they didn't pay up.
Yes, I recall when that note was introduced as evidence at your trial. The district attorney commented about the attractive typeface.
Exactly. But now everything's this harsh, modern junk. No nice curlicues on the letters. Now, a woman of your mother's breeding is going to be pretty upset to get a note in ugly type like this.
Well, she'll be upset to get it, all right. I can picture her reaction to it now.
Well, as you might have guessed, Wilfred, my reaction to this ransom note is very negative.
Well, naturally, Miss Agatha, there's something about a sans serif type face that seems so cold and impersonal.
Well, that's not what upsets me, you ninny. The kidnapper is demanding almost $10 million to release Rodney unharmed.
Yes, Mum. I suppose that would be a negative factor, too. And then, making matters worse, the blackguard tied the note around a rock and tossed it through the music room window.
Well, I guess the person who's already facing the gas chamber for kidnapping figures he might as well commit petty vandalism, too.
Yes, true, Mom. Yeah. You're a keen judge of human nature. Perhaps it's your sensitivity that gives me courage to speak out on a matter that's come to my attention.
Of course. You know, I've always been concerned about your feelings, so if you have something to say, just spit it out before I send you on your way without so much as a letter of reference.
Yes, Mom. Thank you, Mom. It's about the ransom figure, $9,800,000. That's the exact amount your auditor found overdrawn from Mr. Rodney's petty cash account at the office. I wonder what the police would say if they knew that the ransom money would be just enough to get Mr. Rodney out of his tight situation.
So, why were you wondering what I'd say, Sergeant? I've been working on the Marchfield kidnapping case ever since it broke, and the figure $9,800,000 doesn't ring a bell with me.
Well, it's the amount of ransom they've asked for, Chief. By coincidence, it's also the exact amount that Rodney seems to have embezzled from Marchfield Lead Mining.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Outside of those things, it doesn't ring a bell with me. Does it ring a bell with you?
Maybe. Suppose Rodney knew the auditors were about to find that shortage, so he made an appointment, as we already know, to have lunch with Lefty Schellenbach on the very day he disappeared.
Funny, the name Schellenbach doesn't ring a bell either.
He kidnapped the Mumford twins 30 years ago. You solved the case.
Good. At least that's one loose end we've wrapped up.
Well, not entirely, Chief. Schellenbach's been out of the slammer for a month now, and for no good reason, he has lunch with Rodney Marchfield, who was then kidnapped and held for the exact amount of ransom he needs to avoid an embezzlement rap. You see what I'm driving at?
No, but if you get any leads, call me at the gas station. Rodney bought a new oil filter there on the day he disappeared, and I intend to find out the reason why.
Now, will the young squirt at the gas station knuckle under and tell all he knows? How did Lefty send a ransom note to Agatha clipped out of newspaper type when he couldn't reach the scissors? And why hasn't the broken glass in the music room ever been swept up? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear Lefty say,
Do you spell decapitated with one K or two?
That's next time when we return again to Garish Summit.
Now, through the courtesy of the Ashenfelder Whip Socket Company, we take you back to
September 8th, 1922. Herman L. Barchwood invents the rooftop television antenna. Bob and Ray was there.
Hey, Herman. Herman, will you cut out that racket?
Oh, good morning, Luther. I hope I wasn't disturbing you with my hammering.
Well, as a matter of fact, you were. You know, being an inventor yourself, you ought to realize how loud noise can keep a person from concentrating. I haven't gotten any work done on my latest project all morning.
Well, I'm sorry, Luther, but I'm about finished here now anyway. I was just nailing this wire down the side of the house from my new invention up on the roof there. What do you think of it?
Well, I'm not sure what to think of it, Herman. I don't know what it is. A metal pole with a lot of horizontal bars sticking out from it. What's it for, anyway?
It's a place for migratory birds to stop and rest on their way south.
Huh?
See, I've designed all those prongs sticking out to be just the right size for a bird's foot. And it's all made out of aluminum, so it won't rust. See any problems I haven't thought of?
Well, I can certainly see one. Who in thunder is going to pay good money to buy a resting station for migratory birds?
Well, I'm not sure, Luther. I've written the Audubon Society about endorsing it, and I even ran this wire down the side of the house to the living room window at their suggestion. It's a trolley for running breadcrumbs up to the roof in bad weather. But the Audubon people still haven't come through with any cash.
Well, at least your invention works, even if you never make any money out of it. That's more than I can say for my project.
I forget which one of your nutty ideas you're working on now.
Well, it's not a nutty idea, Herman. After all, we've got motion pictures and radio now, so there's no reason we shouldn't be able to combine the two. I just can't get my wireless moving picture machine to work for some reason.
Well, you'd never be able to sell it anyway with a name like Wireless Moving Picture Machine. Why not call it something catchy that the public can remember? How about television?
Well, Herman, it doesn't make any difference what I call it. The thing just won't work. I got my brother transmitting pictures from across town, but all I can pick up on my receiver is a fuzzy image and a lot of snow.
Well, maybe it's the tall buildings in between that interfere with the reception.
Well, I thought of that, but what can I do? Any city big enough to support a wireless moving picture station would have tall buildings, so there's no solution to the problem. I might as well toss my equipment in the trash can and forget
Well, don't be too hasty, Luther. Suppose you had some way of receiving the pictures over the tops of the buildings.
Well, that just might do it. Say I connected my moving picture machine to that wire running up to your aluminum bird roost. That would put the receiver high enough.
Luther, for Pete's sake, don't even suggest such a thing. That might electrocute the migratory birds. And if the Audubon Society hears about it, they'll never give me their endorsement.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Herman. I shouldn't louse up your chance of success by asking you to help me. No, I'll just throw my equipment in the ash can and forget it.
Yeah, maybe that would be best, Luther. And once you get all the wires and tubes cleared out of that wooden cabinet, I'll give you $3 for it. I think Martha could use it for a planter.
And so Herman L. Botchwood's next-door neighbor threw away his wireless moving picture machine without ever trying to connect it to Herman's aluminum bird roost. As for Herman, he died penniless after failing to get the endorsement of the Audubon Society. He had missed his fleeting chance for success on a warm autumn morning many, many years before. And what sort of a day was it? A day like all days, that alter and illuminate our times. The date?
September 8th, 1922. Herman L. Botchwood invents the rooftop television antenna. Bob and Ray was there. Thank you. Mention my name in Sheboygan again. That reminds us that it has to be an end to all good things, and this is the end of today's Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
And as usual, the whole thing was produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson. That's him right there. He's a man who's old enough to remember a world before Naugahyde.
And our associate producer, Marjorie Van Halderen, on the other hand, can't remember a world without Solarian floors.
Technical director was Malcolm Addy.
Sound effects provided by Al Schaefer.
The music for the Bob and Ray Show provided by the 11 talented fingers of Paul Talbot.
Audio engineers today were Mike Moran and Pat Martin, and production assistants Diana Freed and Stuart Zagner.
Funding in part by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund. And now this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
And Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.